And good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are watching here in the Philippines and from all over the world. And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma podcast. In my podcast, I interview the country's pioneering business personalities and entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business. What are their success secrets? Are they willing to share their success secrets with the rest of us? How have they innovated? How have they pivoted? How have they evolved their businesses during this pandemic? But more importantly, what opportunities do they see emerging in our now normal? Is there a business personality or entrepreneur that you would like me to interview here on the podcast? Please drop me a line. Let me know. I would love to have them here on the show. I would love to pick their brains. We are also live right now on Kumu, CBRC TV, Global Pinas TV, and now the Bounce Back Network. Tonight, a guest who I've known for many years. He is a chief marketing officer of Packworks, which is a mobile-first super app and multi-sided marketplace B2B ecosystem for entrepreneurs. It sounds like a lot of jargon. And our next guest, Ibba Bernardo, the chief marketing officer of Packworks, will unpack what Packworks is all about. But the more important thing about Packworks is that their goal is to promote our micro of the micro entrepreneurs, our nanay-preneurs. Our nanay-preneurs are the why behind why Packworks have gained several recognitions from award-giving bodies all over the world, particularly from our good friends, the Techstars Fintech Accelerator in 2021, and the best startup by JICA. That's the Japanese, I believe, Japanese agency. Mckinsey Ninja Accelerator. So I can please call here right now my very good friend Ibba Bernardo. Ibba, thanks for taking the time out to join us here. Ibba, you're on mute.
Okay.
There you have it.
Hey, RJ. Thanks for having me, man. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you. You are like one of the hardest working entrepreneurs out there, doing a million things. Half of them are ridiculously innovative. The other are incredibly successful. And in the middle, the ones that kind of mix are successful and innovative. So I love talking to you, man.
I love that, man. Thanks so much. You will get the commission later on after our podcast is over.
Charge for that referral code.
Yeah. And there's just one thing I want to say about Ibba as well, since this is going to be a mutual admiration type of thing going on. It was Ibba who first turned me on to the idea of how startups work, because I came from a very traditional business background, and Ibba was he was going out in another direction which I didn't quite understand. So it took me a lot of exposure to learning about it from his own businesses, and later on during this discussion, Ibba will unpack also the different startups which led him to create Packworks, and I think it's going to be very insightful as he discusses his own tech startup entrepreneurial journey. But more importantly, Ibba's a guy who likes to give back. But the nice thing that I see across all the different businesses that he's doing is that it's all about giving back into his own community, whether it is nanay-preneurs or the creative community. Ibba's there, and we're very thankful that you're here on the show. And of course, among motorcycle enthusiasts, Ibba is probably the star amongst all of them. Having said that, Ibba, if you guys are listening here right now, you've got comments for Ibba, please share them here right now. We've got Lance Luis Caviteño. Good evening to all. Lance, thank you so much always for listening to the show. Really appreciate your presence. If you got questions, please feel free to ask Ibba here your questions. So let's start off, Ibba, with what Packworks is all about. I mean, the title doesn't seem to, for me, it doesn't link back to the nanay-preneur. So maybe we can help people better understand what Packworks is all about. When you were pitching this and you guys won, what was the pitch that you guys gave for Packworks?
Okay, so there are two questions here. First, why Packworks? And that's a different story and has to do with finding product market fit and our clients not being comfortable with calling us the pack. So they added, our clients was the ones who added Works, but I think we'll get into that later. But
sure, great.
Basically, that over 90% of all retail transactions happen in these micro SMEs, and that we are creating a platform that amplifies the sarisari store, the distributor, and the brand. We've created a tech solution that makes running their business and understanding their businesses across the line more powerful.
Wow. And you can find this right now online. Can you find this on the Apple Play Store, on the Google Play Store?
So we're my partner Hubert Yap calls us a B2B2B, business to BGC to Binondo.
And what exactly does that mean?
So basically, we work through our enterprise partners to get our app out there. And then we work through the sarisari stores, the successful sarisari stores in the communities that activate their smaller sarisari stores. So it's not exactly B2C. It's not like anybody can download the app. You're kind of pre-vetted by either the brand or a sarisari store. So, but we've gotten tremendous traction with that. It also saves us from having to spend a ton of money on Facebook ads and people on the ground doing blitzes. It was an active choice on our part to kind of get the product out in the right hands first. So if you're interested, you can reach out to us and we'll hook you up.
Great. What's your website, or where can they get in touch with you so we can post that on the screen right now?
Packworks.io.
Got that. Packworks.io. Okay. Now, Ibba, we're going to go into it one by one so we get a better understanding of what Packworks is all about. But before that one, really great news about Packworks. You guys hit two milestones. First, in terms of traction, and the second milestone that you guys just hit is in terms of investment. Tell us a bit more about that one. I'm sure it's very exciting news.
Yeah. Honestly, like you said, I've been doing this for so long, right? And I've had okay startups. I mean, nothing that's like exploded, right? But this is the first time that we've gotten all of these international partners to come in and say, you know what, we believe in what you're doing. We see the potential for that market locally and internationally. We're going to help you out. So locally, we've got Idea Space and Kubo coming in. There are only local investors. Then we've got Techstars Western Union. We're the first investee of ADB Ventures in the Philippines.
Wow.
As well as Arise, which is a fund of Finch and MDI Indonesia. They're like Globe and Smart there. And of course, our lead investor is fast logistics, and CVC capital. So really exciting stuff. Next month, RJ, I'm gonna ask you if you could please open up your calendar and maybe host our announcement. I would really be
Anything
grateful.
for
I'm
you,
putting you on the
Iba.
spot. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I can't say no. And of course, what's truly incredible is you just mouthing off all the different investors coming in, and I want to get into that later on for maybe some
Oh,
of the startups you're looking at as well, how to actually go about the process of getting investors to come in and investors with gravitas.
sorry. The other question, I answered one
Yeah.
very longly. The other question, the milestone. We've gotten product market fit. We are now touching 150,000 stores, sarisari stores in our network through our
Wow.
B2B to B model.
Just what exactly is, if you don't mind, I know that it's a large universe for sari stores, but then what is 150 in terms of a percentage of the total sari stores in the Philippines?
Depending on what stats you look at, there are about 1 million to 1.2 million
Okay.
sari stores in the country. So we're a little past, we're about 12% of the sari stores.
Wow. I want to say hi to my friend, our good friend David Ledesma, my primo David Ledesma, listening to us all the way from Thailand. David, thanks for chiming in here right now. David Ledesma saying, "Congrats to Iba." Let's show it over there, Strauss. That's David Ledesma. And what's the interesting thing about David Ledesma that you want to share, Ibba Bernardo? Why is this guy such a superstar in Thailand as well? He's got his own
I'm not
website,
sure if
right?
I can share that here, but no, David is David is I guess he's definitely related to you because he just he zigged left when everybody zigged right. No, he started an online YouTube school that is incredibly successful with Ivy League people. He's written books on crypto, but I don't know how that's doing now. But I mean, David is one of my idols, just doing what he wants to do.
I know. And David is complimenting us right now by saying, "Shut up." Thanks so much, David.
I did, I, I
But
didn't
thank,
share anything
yeah, thanks for listening
incriminating
to
to
us,
you.
David. But we appreciate it, David. Also, we've got another one here over here. One of your fans, Andres Mantial, saying, "I'm an Iba fan," with a heart emoji. Thanks so much for listening in here over here, Andres.
Andres Andoy is part of our crew. He's one of the awesome part of our execom. He's actually our chief data officer.
Very important person.
So
So
yep.
yeah. So let's make sure that Iba's on the right track with what he's trying to say and doesn't violate any data privacy right now as we go through our discussion. Iba, going back to you right now. Okay, listening earlier on about what you guys do over here in Packworks. I mean, it sounds great, but you know what? I often tell people here, sometimes you've got to laymanize things. Like people coming here for the first time. I mean, these concepts just fly over their head. It's a lot of jargon when it comes out. Just saying B2B, some people don't even appreciate that anymore. If I was to explain this to our dads or to my dad, he's 78 years old, he's old school business guy, might not be able to really fathom what you guys are doing. If you were to explain it in simple language, what exactly do you guys do in Packworks?
We created a calculator just for these sari stores that not only help you understand how much you're making, but will also lend you money, give you insurance, and find the best value for your orders.
Wow. So, are you like well, right nowadays there are different terms. Are you a fintech app? Are you financial inclusion tech app? What exactly would you guys? I would say not. Maybe I wouldn't say that. I don't want to say boxing you into a specific category, but more or less, what kind of app are you guys? Are you an e-commerce app? Are you a marketplace
The
app?
It being Pride Month, so if we were LGBTQ, we're probably the plus. Our pronouns would be retail tech, fintech, um, supply chain tech, logistics tech, and because we're an enabler, we're a platform, right? We first connect all of these stores, and we're an amplifier. We're not a
Mhm.
disruptor. So we're about making it more efficient for stores to reach their customers, and for other companies, micro insurance, brands to reach the stores.
Got that. I just want to go back again to our chat box over here saying hi to Charleston Carolino Hermosura. He says over here, good morning, Consul RJ and Idol Eva. Yeah, thanks so much for listening to Charleston, our good friend from the Department
Isn't
of Foreign
Charleston like an
Affairs.
ambassador already?
Yes, he is. Well, practically he's an ambassador right now. But I think he's back here right now. Charleston, let me know if I'm correct. And of course, Andres, I think, and again, I was an Ibba fan before I even was part of his group. Groupie niya ako. That is very scary, Andres, to hear. That you're a Iba groupie. No, and this is the other interesting thing, Iba. We've had this conversation.
No accounting for taste.
We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Packworks, no. And I find it pretty interesting when people, when they hear about it, is that I said your app is pretty close to other apps as well. It's slightly touching on what another app does. And you were saying, do you perceive them as competition? And you were saying something like, nowadays, there's no such thing as really competition in this space. Can you elaborate a bit more on what you were trying to communicate to me?
So I think there are a lot of great teams out there with some awesome solutions, no? And we look at the problem many different ways. Some teams are trying to make it more efficient by creating their own railways, creating their own train stations, their own airports. Other teams are going wide and saying everybody should have a bicycle, right? We're all trying to solve this logistics transport problem. What we're doing is, you know what? Let's give everybody pamasahe, and let's let them find their way. So we're amplifying. We're not replacing. We are creating clear value for a highly focused group of sarisari stores and brands, while the others might be going wider, right? The others might be going much, much deeper by building warehouses and doing their own delivery. The others are also, and many of them have been guests, and I've listened to your show quite a bit, RJ. The others might be creating a parallel multiverse, right?
Exactly. In comic book parlance, exactly. Got that.
That mirror the Sari store network, because it doesn't make sense to go into an inefficient system, right?
That's right.
We look at the network and we want to amplify it.
Okay, very interesting. And I actually want to discuss how you were able to discover this. What I would often call here on the podcast the pain point or the underserved opportunity, where there's an opportunity to disrupt operations. Basically, that's how tech startup entrepreneurs think. But having said that, I want to take another step back again, no? And like I said, even we've actually known each other for years. We were both together in the debate society of LaSalle. So many years ago, we made fools of ourselves debating, not knowing what we were actually saying. But then we made a lot of good friends out of it over here. Met a lot of great entrepreneurs like David, like Lex Ledesma, and many other people over here right now. But can you share with us a bit more about? And this is going to be an interesting story. So we're going to go the roundabout way as to how we got to Packworks by discussing your own entrepreneurial journey, Iba. That's what I want to find out, and it's an interesting story. That's why I wanted to have you here on the show, of how we got to Packworks, because I know that Packworks is not, like you were saying earlier on, it's not your first time around the block. This has been like you've done several startups. And before you discuss your journey, what made this one particularly different from all the other startups you were doing? Because that's also very instructive for the other people here right now. I mean, they think, first startup fails, I'll stop now. I don't want any more. But you said, or let's say that each of your startups had a moderate level of success. What made you think that this startup that you were doing, Packworks, would be different? What was the key differentiator or differentiators that made this one different, if you look at the qualities of what you were putting up?
All right. So let's look at the journey first and then look at the differences. No?
Okay, great. So let's start, what is your very first? Kung ganyan, what was your first? Let's say, what is your first thing that you did before you got into the startup world? What turned you on into entrepreneurship in the first place?
So my parents are both economists, right? So they're always looking at different ways of incentivizing performance. So as a kid, I was kind of like a super microeconomic experiment, right? Let's see if we minimize his supply of allowance, what will he do? If we tell him we'll never get you toys, but we will buy you as many books, only books. So ganon yung mga, that's how I grew up. So I would go at,
And
at
I know,
5.
and I know his parents. His parents are very, very good friends of mine. Very, very good
Yep,
friends.
yep, yep, yep.
Tita Amina Rasul Bernardo, and of course Romy Bernardo. Great economists, guys. Google them if you have to. But these are really great people out there serving the country.
So when I was I always had some kind of hustle, right? So when I was in first grade, I grew up in Switzerland and in the U.S. I would buy stuff in bulk, like baseball cards. I didn't know anything about baseball or basketball, and I would sell them, right? In college, La Salle is a great university for entrepreneurs because you're able to find these little hustles. So I've always been hustling, and finding these small rackets. And I think what really got me into it was, for a while, one of my first jobs was as a video game journalist. And
I
that was
remember
back
that. I remember that.
yeah. And I got to, go interview a lot of these incredible game producers all over the world because I was the only one with a visa. Right? So the opportunity was because I was the only one who could fly to the US and I could take my own pictures.
What is it? What is the name of the magazine that you were doing?
It was, at that time, I was writing for T3, Games Master, K Zone, and then I was editor in chief of the Ragnarok guidebook. Okay, so then we started working on, I met some people, we started working on video games, like AAA titles. And then from there, that carried on for a bit. We got investors. So that's my first taste of pitching and getting investors.
And you were pitching them to buy into to invest in a video game that you had created. Is that right?
No. We were working on other people's games. So it was a BPO. It was getting investors to help.
Okay.
Yep. And from there, I kind of got burned out with games. And I started doing social impact stuff with Lex, a good friend of ours. We started teaching in Muntinlupa in prison. Then I got roped in then I taught third generation blogger, Smoky Mountain scavengers how to blog and create their own. Because I'm a geek. That's how I help, right? With technology. And then Jim Ayala.
You're a geek for good, in other words.
A geek for good, definitely. Because what's the point? Then Jim Ayala asked me, because I like motorcycles, and he started the Solar Energy Foundation, if I would want to ride around the country for 19 days and visit off-grid communities and bring them solar energy. And I said, for sure. We visited 70 off-grid communities, and during those 19 days, every single community we visited was a sarisari store. That no matter if you had no electricity, you had no plumbing, no drainage, you were a floating town, there was a sarisari store. And so the whole time I'm thinking, okay, now that they have power, what else can I do? 19 days. When I got back to Manila, I lost my job simply because they realized they could work without me. And then I started my first social enterprise, and I didn't even know it was a social enterprise. I didn't even know it was an impact startup because there were no names for it yet. And that was Sari Software Solutions.
Sari Software Solutions.
Yep. At the same time, I started out some retail outlets, brought in some brands, Otterbox, Pop Socket, Mission Workshop, Bang & Olufsen, with some friends. So I understood, we started one kiosk, and then now we're all over the country. And I understood, I had no idea how to run these stores, right? Luckily, I had great partners, but I understood the pain points of retail while I was doing these things on the side. And you kind of see how these things plug together, right? Understanding the pain points of a retailer, understanding the pain points of off-grid marginalized communities, and kind of figuring out how technology can help them.
Got that. And then over here, I just want to say before you continue, we've got your friend Reginald Jr. Velasco saying, #Only Books Ibba Bernardo was my childhood friend. #A geek for good. Hey, but thanks for listening in, Reginald. Really appreciate that you're picking up these little nuggets of wisdom of Iba, that you're part of his own journey. So, Iba, let's go back now. So, you're picking
Wait,
all these different
RJ,
things.
RJ,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I could just reply to so the other, and I think we're gonna go into this later, right? But
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
the other reason why I think we reached so much farther than what I've done, I'm farther than I could imagine, no? Accomplished so much is because at our age, RJ, we have a lot of great smart friends who've built things, right? Andoy was my high school classmate, and I gave him a call and I said, "Hey, Andoy, I've got millions and millions of data points from sarisari stores. Can we do something? What do you think?" And he's a data scientist, and he was like, "Oh my god, that's ridiculously cool," and he joined the team. Reggie, um, at our lowest of the low, I literally had like a 3 hour phone call with him. He was a childhood friend talaga in the US. Like I was probably 10 years old and he was like 12, right? And I hadn't talked to him in years. I had a call with him during the peak pandemic, and I knew he had FMCG. He had an FMCG background. He was with Nestle as a VP and a director in Emperador. And I was telling him, I'm doing this thing. It's so painful. We're not. It's so difficult to do during the pandemic. Reggie, can you help me out? He volunteered to be our head of growth, and he brought all of his like FMCG know-how to help us grow.
Wow. Wow. Really
And
great.
here they
Thanks so
are
much,
supporting.
Reg. I hope right now that he was paying you right now with all the investors coming in, huh?
Over
Andoy.
time. I'm forcing them. This is they have to clock in and comment.
Yeah. Thanks guys for listening in. I want to go back a bit more because one of the points where where we came together again, because like me and Iba were like, we keep on coming back together again, from time to time. We figured, hey, we're supposed to do this together. We're supposed to do this together, right? Um, there
Soon.
was one point that the one point was Sari, and I remember I was doing a talk for Pure Gold, about building ecosystems or helping like Mercato, and we were talking about Sari. So that was your first sort of like, to my mind, that's your first social impact venture, which was also sort of like a startup at the same time. Am I correct to understand that one? That
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
first
I had
one,
no
really.
idea what I was doing.
Yeah. So tell us about
Thankfully,
bit more about that Sari. So I want to get into Sari a bit. What is the pain point? And you were a bit confused. So some of the people starting off in the startup will understand. It doesn't always your first one isn't your best one. Parang ganyan, di ba?
so I'm after I did the ride for light and I was jobless. Right, my partners, still great friends, realized they didn't need me. And I realized I really didn't want to go to Makati day in and day out and do the grind. I wanted to create something that helped people, but also made money, right? I didn't want to work in a nonprofit because um, I didn't believe that it was easy to scale those solutions. So I knew I needed to create a business that made money,
Mm-hmm.
that so that we could help more people. And I didn't know it was called. Wala pang pangalan ng social enterprise nun, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just had come from a dinner and I was outside and this guy approached me who was in that dinner. He had helped the Solar Energy Foundation with logistics across the country, delivering the solar energy units. And he asked me what I did. And that was the hardest question anybody had ever asked me because I was in between things, right? And then I started telling him about all of the social impact stuff I was doing. And I didn't,
And
this is the
and
first time I'd
and
met.
you weren't even using the word social impact. You just
No,
you
no,
just
no. I was just telling him like, oh, I go to
yeah.
prisons, I teach prisoners, I bring solar units to sari stores, and I teach like third generation scavengers in Smoky Mountain how to document their lives. And this guy's probably, this guy's kind of weird, right? So he gives me his card. He goes, hey, if you have any ideas, drop by and we can chat. And he gets into a Camry, and then a few days later, I have an idea for creating apps that will help these these sari stores. Because if my 3-year-old niece could use an app, this is over 12 years ago, right? If
Mhm.
my 3-year-old niece could use an app, then a sari store could if you created it the right way. I give this guy a call. He's nicest person. I don't know who he is. All right. I'm just like, And it turns out he's this incredible guy named Jun C, and he's the head of a conglomerate called Tau Corp. And I go to his office. I'm like, wow, this is fancy. And he doesn't look like he's a fancy person, right? Super chilled, super low key. And we just start chatting. And he goes, you know what? Let's do this together. Come up with a budget, come up with a plan, and then let's figure it out. And that's how Sari started. I don't
Wow.
think I've ever shared that story.
Well, it's an exclusive here on the podcast then. Now, before you continue, I want to say hi to a couple of other people over here. We've got Marjorie Rubio, the founder of Beck CS. And hello, Idol Arjun Iba. I don't know if you met her. She was on the show a couple of weeks ago. She's disrupting the startup world by creating customized logistics solutions for people. And last night, both her and I, we just won last night in the Asia SME Circle Awards for the Asia Leaders Awards. So
Congratulations,
renegade
RJ and
entrepreneur.
Marjorie.
Yeah, and Iba, that's why I like doing this podcast because it's also time for me to connect the dots, and I think that her logistic solutions might work very well in the network that Packworks is trying to create. So hopefully, you guys get together, find a way to work together over there. Hi also to Henorio Oyales Reyes. Hi, boss Iba and Idol RJ. Thanks so much for listening to you over. Thanks so much for listening as well. And Lo Eva, awesome innovation, Eva. Yeah, really awesome. So Iba, let's go back again now. When you talk to the Tao people, what exactly were you pitching? What was the? I mean, maybe the word pain point wasn't quite there yet, but what were you trying to do at the start with Sari? What it was that was the germination of the seed that led to Packworks. But initially, what was it supposed to be?
So, based on my experience riding around the country, visiting these communities and visiting these sarisari stores, um, the easiest and most successful businesses were sarisari stores, right? They're not only sarisari stores are social enterprises in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
They provide food and products and opportunities to the communities, no matter where you are. In the pandemic, nagpapautang sila ng pagkain kung wala kang
Oh,
ano,
oh,
'di ba? So they are our first line to distribute food to the country and clean drinking water. So I thought, all right, if you can create a network effect of these sari stores, then there's something there. Then I started looking at their pain points and trying to figure out, all right, what's our foot in the door value proposition when it comes to technology? Because at that time, smartphones were relatively new,
mm-hmm.
right? We're only looking at mga KitKat Android versions. They were still a little expensive. Internet was a little bit more expensive at that time. And we needed to find a way to get them data, get them a mobile device, and then provide the app. So imagine how much friction that is.
Exactly.
But that app has to make them money to pay for the internet and pay for the mobile device. So timing is also a huge part of the success. I learned a lot back then, but the timing is right now.
So in other words, so Sari was sort of like your pre pre Packwork. What Packworks would become was what Sari was initially.
Yep, and thankfully I had awesome partners, like Tao, and they actually have recently allowed me to use the IP and things that we created back then in Packworks.
Got it. Got it.
So that's the
So
other
what
thing,
happened?
having great
Yeah.
people.
Well, I guess you attract. I mean, my presumption is that you do attract great people if you're doing something with a great why. So I mean, they naturally sort of gravitate to you because they can see the purity of the intention of the person creating it.
Yeah, good people attract good people, man. We seek our level.
Exactly.
So I try and attract smarter people than myself, not because I want to learn from them, but because I want to think less.
you and I both, brother, talking about thinking less. We've got Mikhail Bernardo over here in the chat box.
My
Do you know
brother.
Mikhail Bernardo? Yeah, I know. Go Eva, go RJ. Thanks so much for listening, Mikhail.
He's actually helping us out.
Yeah. Well, stick him up there, Strauss, so we can see his comment. No, that's the other one. But right, so the company profile impressive as Marjorie from Bexy, yes. And let's also show the comment, Strauss from Mikhail. Go Iba, go RJ. Para naman mabasa ni Yan, para mabasa naman ulit ni Mikhail when he takes a look at this again. So, Iba, that's very interesting. So I want to know right now, so also people can learn from this one. What happened to Sari? So it was ahead of its time. It didn't work out. Did you put it to sleep? Did you talk to the investors? Say what happened at that point?
So what happened with Sari was we needed to make money. So we had created these simple and that's there's complexity in creating something simple. It's incredibly hard to create something simple, right? So we created this incredibly complex platform that helped micro entrepreneurs, MSMEs. And you can see this happening now with a lot of great startups. And to make money, we started getting clients like Mr. Donut, right? For kiosks, that kind of thing. And again, keep in mind, this is 12 years ago. And we worked with Globe. They sold it. And I think you were brand
Oh,
ambassador
I remember
for...
that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that now. Yeah, yeah.
So Globe started selling our solutions, but I had built a team that wanted to help sarisari stores, not do business solutions for franchises and for telcos to sell. And we were all incredibly unhappy, even though it was generating revenue. So imagine that could have been its own startup, right? But then you have to align with why you're doing it. You're right. What is your why? Our why wasn't to make money. Our why, that was part of it, but our why was to make money and help communities. And we were unhappy with just 50% of our why. So we decided to exit and do our own thing afterwards. So we Del Bros got in Globe. We passed over our revenue generating uh, clients and our IP to them, and then I decided to do something else.
So you guys got to cashed out because it wasn't part
Yeah.
of your why. Wow,
Yep.
very very interesting. So I mean, it's not a common experience for many people. Sometimes they'll go, well, it's making money. I might as well stay over here. So I think what people can learn over here is that even though, I mean, from your own experience, even if it's making money, it doesn't mean that you love it. And you're saying that if you continued it, you guys would not have been happier in the longer term, or you couldn't have pivoted the business to something that you would have liked more.
It's the contract I made with my people, right? That this is why we're doing it. And if I was unhappy and they were unhappy, honestly, I didn't see the point in continuing.
Got that.
And
Got that.
RJ, you and I are very lucky. We're very privileged, right, to make these decisions and make these bets, and we don't really have to worry about a roof over our head. Or I mean, no matter what happens, kaya pa natin maka-afford ng McDo, di ba? So it gives us a lot of freedom to make these decisions. I don't think I think I'm blessed to be able to make that kind of decision, and my team was talented enough to have other opportunities. If it was reversed, and there are a lot of people in the team that needed this opportunity, then I might have thought twice.
Got that. Now, Iba, I know that aside from, well, I want to just say, Krishna Ayuso commenting also as well in the chat box. I was attracted to join Packworks when I met Iba. Wow, Iba, you're such an attractor. I didn't realize how attractive you were.
Krishna is our head of people and culture, and she has helped craft this incredibly inclusive and value adding organization. So and also I'm paying her extra to post 50 pesos
to,
bawat post from the team.
to comment over here, di ba? Thanks so much.
Yep.
Part of our KPIs over
Algorithm.
here.
Yep.
And I like this also. Marjorie, thanks so much for coming in again. Marjorie saying over here, yes, businesses focused on ESG and sustainability will be the drivers of the industry now. So glad I tuned in. Yes, I mean, exactly. That's why I brought Iba on the show, Marjorie, because that's exactly what we're looking at over here. Now, Iba, I know that before getting to finally to Packworks, I know you have a few other business detours. You went into the motorcycle, I would say, sales business, and you also went also at the same time into selling your the 3D glasses that you had.
Yep,
Is that
yep.
correct?
VR
So,
headsets and creating
of, of,
content for museums.
exactly. Yeah. So tell us a bit. If you don't mind, let's get into that as well because I want to see how that finally impacted coming back here to what you're doing for Packworks.
So you and I are the Buck Rogers generation, right? You and I grew up when there were only 4 TV stations, and we were the remote control. RJ, palitan mo yung stasyon, di ba? That's how we grew up. And watching and I know you're a geek like me, and watching sci-fi, Star Trek, and Star Wars. Not Star Wars. Star Wars is fantasy, but more Star Trek and Buck Rogers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You imagine the future. And hanggang ngayon, I'm still doing that. I think I live in the future, right? I can talk to my house. My thing is electric. I'm not sure if I can mention it, right? My motorcycle is electric. We have the capability to and dream even more to build that future. But we come from a Philippine context, right? You see Tesla and you think, wow, that's awesome, but that's not going to work here until you build that infrastructure. So electric motorcycles is the way to go, right? Electric tricycles. You think of these technologies that are being created in the first world, and I love imagining ways it can help people who don't have access to those technologies. But you have to scale it down. So when Google came out with mobile VR,
Maybe the word even is not scale it down, but scale it differently.
Scale it differently. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we created award-winning VR experiences for the Ayala Museum and the National History Commission with Ambith Ocampo. We did the Alden Richards VR concert, which was like we won the new. We got sorry, we didn't win. We lost to Elon Musk. We got nominated for a New York Festival's TV and Film award, but we lost to his stupid rocket. But okay lang, no bad feelings, Elon.
Yeah, and again,
But
that technology, just for people listening, that's called IM cardboard. Can you show that again, Iba, the IM cardboard that you have over there?
Actually, this is Oculus, but yeah, I don't have one here. But yeah, I am cardboard.
That's another project over there.
It's a Pinoy-driven innovation, and we've sold more than a million of those headsets all over the world. So it's really looking at pain points, right? Looking at pain points in an emerging market, and trying to imagine and dream of a world where your end state, like what is the sarisari store of the future?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a place where people can find jobs. It's a place when a typhoon hits, it instantly becomes a disaster relief center. It's a place wherein if your dad is working or your mom is working abroad, it's where you can get your allowance and your lunch. Yeah, there's so much potential if we can connect them.
Great. And I think it's also what people can learn over here is that, it's contextualizing things, right? Yeah, a lot of great opportunities, but it doesn't mean, but people often think there's only a lot of great opportunities abroad, or somewhere else. But as an entrepreneur, if you're able to contextualize the opportunities, there are a lot over here if you're able to look at them from an entrepreneur's eyes. And from yours, it's like a tech entrepreneur looking at the future here in the Philippines and seeing not exact pain points also, but it's really seeing what is the potential for this market, right? Or what is the potential for this industry? And that's really what I'm seeing from this discussion over here. Last product, which I want people to know about, motorcycles. How did you get? You're a big motorcycle guy. You've got your own podcast on motorcycles. Can you plug it a bit? Feel free to plug your motorcycle podcast for just a bit.
All right. So big thanks to Podcast Network Asia, talking about great friends, Ronster and Attorney Joseph, who also happens to be our lawyer for Packworks. They gave me a platform, and during the pandemic, our podcast, Tunay na Rider, was the only thing that kept me really sane, and be able to hang out with friends. Right, Bianca, the best producer out there. Sorry, Strauss, but Bianca rocks. And Henorio, man, wherever I am, he's one of our number one fans. So yeah, we got to talk about motorcycles, dream about riding, and thankfully now we can ride a bit more. Um, so yeah, I'm lucky to do what I like, and kind of see. It's not about innovation for innovation's sake.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how do we solve pain points and how do we add value? How do we leave the world a better place, man? And you're doing the same thing.
Well, thanks, Eva. And I want to just ask you also, for you guys, what is it about motorcycles that you're doing? I remember before you were distributing motorcycles. You opened up a motorcycle store.
So, all riders are mayabang. Di ba, Henorio? All riders, I mean, if you're gonna get on a big motorcycle, mayabang ka. So I'm gonna toot my own horn a bit. But one of the reasons KTM is being manufactured here in the Philippines is
And again,
because
give them background. What is KTM? So people know what KTM is.
KTM is an Austrian motorcycle brand. It's one of the best in the world, right? So before it's just made in Europe, and now the Ayala Group is making them here. For export. We're building the best motorcycles in the world in the Philippines for export. That's incredible. And the regional head of KTM, I was like their secret shopper. He flew into the Philippines. He asked me, "How's the brand doing?" I'm like, "It's not doing that well with the previous distributor." And then he goes, "You know what? I got to find another distributor." And ako mayabang ako. So I was like, "Oh, you know what? You should talk to the Zabel brothers. They love motorcycles. Like they remember me, right?" No, I've ridden with them a couple of times, but so the next week, the Austrian embassy reaches out to them. So I like to pretend I had a little part in that. So fast forward to a couple years later, I asked if I could be a distributor, and they said yes. So for a while, I was selling KTM motorcycles. I had a dealership.
Wow, wow, interesting entrepreneurial journey. I like all the little detours that you took. And finally, with all these detours, with all these things that you're doing, let's finally get to how did Packworks come about? Okay, so
All
you've
right, let
taken
me
all
earn
like
my keep and my shares.
yeah, exactly. So all those bits and pieces, how did they start fitting in and and evolve into what Packworks is right now today?
With
The pain
great
point, sige, pain point
difficulty.
tayo. Yeah.
With great difficulty. So after my whole Sari thing, I was kind of burned out with the startup things. I said I don't want to do a startup anymore. I want to create a real business, like a restaurant or something, like, you know what I mean, that doesn't have a big vision. And we because I had experience already at that point with enterprise solutions, I wanted to do something focused on ERP solutions, enterprise resource planning. So we started working with like Ayala. We created the ERP for their automotive guys. We started doing stuff for telcos and modern trade like Dyson and so on and so forth. And we were doing a decent living, and then pandemic hits, and that destroys everything. In the meantime, I had that tiny itch that I still wanted to help Sari stores. So we
Mhm.
started working with brand principals. And at that time, pre-pandemic, we were in about 5,000 Sari stores. And I was happy. I was like, oh, we're helping 5,000 Sari stores run their business. Pandemic hits, our big clients, the ones we're making money from, because the Sari stores aren't making us money. Um, Everything shut down, right? So we have a ton of ARs. We don't know where our next paycheck's going to come from. We had to close our physical office. Like many, we're not unique. Um, but when we started looking at the data and our credit card bills, because our servers getting more and more expensive, right? The Sari store usage had increased to about 60,000. in the first 6 months of the pandemic, and then a year into the pandemic, and we're only a team of 20 people with
Mhm.
no money. A year into the pandemic, we're at 100,000 or so, and then we make a decision that totally changed the direction of the company. It was like, all right, there's this thing that keeps on growing, but it's costing us money. We can't afford it. We can't do it alone. Do we stop doing that, and do we go with ecom or something? Do we create like a Shopify for these online Viber businesses? And we decide to go all in with sarisari stores, and we realize we can't do it alone. So it's tough, man. We're borrowing money from my co-founder's mom, I'm lending money so that we hit payroll. Um, there's a lot of screaming among partners, not really at each other, but it's just like right.
Screaming per
Some
se.
breakdown. Yes, well, and then some of us like coming close to breaking down. No,
Yeah, yes. It's
and
nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing new for all of us who are founders or running
yeah,
our own
yeah,
businesses. Yeah.
and we just keep on pitching and reaching out to people, and saying, is this something that interests you? The first version of our deck, um I think we got rejected like 25 times, right? And then on the 26th or 35th time, or I don't even remember, we iterated every single time based on the feedback of the people that we're talking to. And on like the 35th go, Idea Space Kubo says, hey, here's $5,000. And we're like, oh, cool. Right. And we'll give you some mentoring. Immediately after that, we're talking to ADB, the next meeting. So 35, 36. ADB's like, you guys are onto something. We'll help you. We can't lead, but we'll do a pre-seed.
Wow.
And then immediately after that, the 37th meeting was with Techstars, and we're just lining up
Wow.
pitches.
With Techstars already, huh?
Yeah, and we got in, right? And then sunod na dude. So it's just like um you just need to keep on iterating and iterating and pivoting and learning, and just you have to make a career out of it. We were like in zombie automatic mode now. Any person, and the beauty of, okay, I maybe beauty is wrong, but the opportunities brought about by the pandemic was we no longer had to go fly wherever for meetings.
Mhm.
Techstars pre-pandemic required us to go to Colorado, right, to do the accelerator program. Because of the pandemic, we could do it from the Philippines and only spend a couple of weeks at the tail end. And the beauty of that was we had the best mentors from all over the world, and I was able to bring our execom. And at the same time, as we were going through this and we're getting yeses, we had Reggie say yes, I'll help you out. We had Andoy say yes. We had Krishna say yes. Because not and they knew we didn't have the resources yet. They did it because the why was clear. And I'm incredibly grateful to them. So yeah, I'm getting a little teary sharing it, but now we're from
But let me wipe the
20
tears. Let me wipe the tears for you.
now at from 20. We're over 50 people.
Bravo, man. Bravo.
And because we're coming from a place that was very lean and very difficult, we got the right people, right? We it's like we had gone through war together. And you know this, RJ. You've heard a whole bunch of entrepreneur pain stories during the pandemic. I mean, you were very active in helping entrepreneurs and business owners during the pandemic. So I'm not telling you anything new, but yeah, and now just looking at the people here, like Alan, he's our head of marketing. Um, we've built a triple A team. Now, Alan's worked in Indonesia, China. He was with Mullen Lowe and helped run
Mhm.
nationwide campaigns. No, we've got this. We're incredible. I'm incredibly lucky.
Wow. Can we close up on the tears right now, Strauss? We need to capture this mode for you. But Iba, I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna ask. I don't know if it's a technical question, but right now, as you bring in all these different investors, people often ask, and this becomes a bit of a complicated question. What does the cap table look like? Or when we say cap table, it just means that what's the ownership table look like when you've got so many investors coming in, and how do you basically protect it? Because you're right now pre-seed, but you've got Series A coming up, hopefully Series B, and hopefully a Series C coming in. What can you say? How do you actually position each of these investors coming at different stages so that you still have control of the company?
When you look at okay, so there are two ways you pick your cap table. One is like picking ninongs for a wedding. No, ako when I got my ninongs and ninangs, it was people who I knew I could reach, I could talk to and get advice, and that person would invest time in trying to help me figure out the problems that I'm facing because Grace. No, I'm just kidding. She's probably watching. But um and that's how you kind of look at investors, right? You look at, all right, well, this person can help me in my personal life because they have incredibly successful marriage and they're happy and all. And this person might not have a successful marriage, but he's really good in business or she's really good in business, right? Or this person is strong in the academe and you know what? I want my kid to go to Harvard. She's on the no, but and it's the same thing with investors. You want to have a nice balance. So earlier, I said ADB was an investor, and they're great because they look at ESG, right? They look at impact
Okay,
alongside.
you have to explain a bit more ESG for people coming across the term for the first time.
So they look at how your company helps people, how it
Oh, sorry.
impacts
What does
communities.
ESG mean also as well, so people can get a better appreciation?
Maybe one of the team can comment. And was it environment, social, good?
Well,
So they
the
look
comment
at
in a bit. Yeah, we'll take a look.
yeah.
But anyway, keep on going, Iba. Yeah.
So they look at how you measure impact. Are you helping communities as well as if you're making money? On the flip side, we have an institutional investor, Fast Logistics. They know logistics inside and out. They distribute products, FMCG goods all over the country. So having them on board and being partnered with a private equity group means it's really about the money, right? And these are our top two investors, people who will be listening to, and we know that they will be bumping heads. They will have different perspectives on direction of the company. So they balance each other out. It's also the way I look at my parents. My mom and dad are both economists, but my mom helps does adult literacy in conflict areas, and my dad is an economist for like Ayala Group and and stuff like that. So they're both coming from the same place, but our dinners are really exciting because they have different perspectives, and I think
Got
that's
that.
important. Will they? But they both my parents want to help me, right? And they're arguing over how they will help you and the direction of my life. And that's I think how you look at investors. They don't have to be the same type. It's you look for a balance.
Got that. Got that. Iba, I wish we had a lot more time, and I want to get into things a bit more. I didn't realize we're almost running for an hour here right now on the show, and a lot. Thanks again to everybody. Alan listening in. See Andres, Krishna, Marjorie listening in. Really appreciate all the feedback. Keep them coming. Now, Iba, I want to go a bit more. Also, people listening here right now, entrepreneurs as well, saying, "Wow, sari ecosystem. Diba? There's so much things that you can do. What have you seen? What have you spotted from your sort of like generalist perspective of where other entrepreneurs can still come and play in that big field that you're in here right now? Like you said, Here, I'm just saying, what does ESG mean? Environment, social, and governance. Okay, guys, you know
Two
not
out
what
of
ESG
three.
means.
Two out of
Okay,
three. So
got that.
I got the environment and social. Not good.
Thanks so much, man. Now, going back, so where do you see other entrepreneurs? Where can they still play in that field and still contribute?
So there are two things we're doing. One is we're not disrupting, right? We're not taking away opportunities. We are connecting and building a platform that connects sari stores all over the country. It's an open platform, which means if there are entrepreneurs out there, there are startup people who want to plug into that platform to
Mm-hmm.
help these sari stores. It could be anything from, if you guys have like Marjorie, maybe we can look at logistics. If there's somebody who's got like a Fiverr type startup, we can plug you in because we are an open platform. We fought very hard to be an open platform, and we're open to piloting, right? Different types of services to these sari stores. There are a lot of pain points in these communities that having a digital footprint in them can help bring different services. So we're the first step. We need other people to help us build it out and add more value to these sari stores.
Got that, Iba. And then finally, as we continue to wrap up this discussion, there's been so much, over here, a lot of great learnings for people listening. Like I said, one of the great things about talking to you is that you've done everything from media work to really entrepreneurial work to doing social impact. So many different experiences over time, but I often tell people nothing is lost when you're an entrepreneur. Any work that you've done, I was a brand manager before. I do media here right now. I mean, all these different backgrounds play into what you are as an entrepreneur right now because you sort of take different things over there. But for you, if you were gonna share some of the hacks that you've gained over the years from all the industries that you've been in, what would be like your three biggest business/life lessons for entrepreneurs listening to us here right now?
One, always see how you can add and not subtract. No, and regardless of entrepreneurship, any relationship, I always want to give more than I take. The other thing is good people. Like I said earlier, attract good people. You want to elevate and have like-minded people around you. I guess evil also attracts evil, which is politics. But yeah, I think good people attract good people. And lastly, don't ask, don't get. Um, Everything that we've done, wala nang hiya-hiya, pare. You only realize this when you're at the lowest of the low. But people really want to help out. Don't be ashamed to reach out for it. And like, I mean, how did I build this? Why do we have this such a great team of people? Is because I asked for help. I didn't put I didn't put a post on Job Street or on Caliber saying I need awesome people. Um, I reached out and I asked for advice. So don't be afraid to ask for help, like I do with you all the time.
And I do with you as well. Actually, even I were supposed to do a startup before. It didn't come to pass, but it was a great way for me to start exercising how to think like a startup founder. I mean, that for me, that was a seed for me. Actually, I realized, so this is what you do. So this is how it's like. This is the mindset that you have to have because it's very different from people who've come from a more traditional business setup and how you think about it. It's not. I often say it's not linear. You can't think in a linear process, or you can't also think that okay, you can't wait until you get into business and think that you can expect all the failure scenarios before you put it up. Sometimes you necessarily have to fail so that you can iterate from that failure and get better. So a lot of different ways to think about business, and I have to thank you, Iba, for helping me broached me or helped me enter into this startup community in the first place and better understand it. Again, thanks so much, Ibba Bernardo. Ibba, again, let's place again Ibba's. If you want to collaborate with Ibba here right now, Ibba, if there are people who want to collaborate, where can they get in touch with you?
You can reach me at just PM me on Messenger.
Okay, PM him on
I'm always on
Ibba,
Facebook.
Ibba, that's Ibba Bernardo,
Bernardo.
on Messenger or also on Facebook or even on LinkedIn. Again, thanks so much for joining us.
Yep.
This has been the RJ Ledesma podcast. And again, please do listen to Ibba's Tune in the Rider podcast, also here in Podcast Network Asia, guys. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next podcast of the RJ Ledesma podcast. Thanks so much, Ibba. Ibba, hang around
Thanks,
first.
RJ. What?
Bye, guys. Thanks, guys. Hang around.